when I first joined, I went away and I had to think about it. It's given up 4 hours of your evening, but it's coming across. There's a very strong possibility you will come across someone who wants to take their life, or who has taken their life. There's a saying that stuck in my head from the first night of the talk, like a recruitment night in the Clarion Hotel, that that there is going to be a night that somebody is going to go into the river, you're going to throw the throw bag and they're not going to catch us. And what effect is that going to have on you?
It's a requirement before going on patrol or shortly after coming on patrol that there is a training program called ASSIST, ASIST, and that's where people learn techniques in intervention with people who may be suicidal.
They teach them the skills of how to talk to somebody and to see the signs and traits of somebody who would be suicidal. They're all first aid trained. We have Munster medics who come and do all our first aid training. They come on and do scenarios. So just, God forbid, if they did have to pull somebody out of the water, if one of us fell in, or if there was an accident among one of the volunteers or any passerby. So we keep up to date with the first aid and the assist, as I just said. And other than that, there isn't really. We do our own training as in internal training, but other than that, there isn't any. We do tend to let them out on patrol before they have the assist because it's a waiting list.
The route has been established, which extends from Thomond Bridge back on either one side of the Shannon or the other, and it culminates at the rear of the Clarion Hotel. So the team who is patrolling returns in the reverse route, and for the last 2 months we have patrol members who are on bicycles, so they're the mounted section, so we can call those up in the event that we see something, because we all have radio contact.
There has to be a bit of laugh and joking, because we're out for 4 to 5. We're out for 4 hours, maybe a little bit longer. So there has to be, each member would really have to get on with one another. There has to be trust there with each person. We do have a laugh. We do tell stories. We won't jump up and down and all this lot. So we do have a talk, but there's always in the back of our minds that there is a possibility that we might come across someone.
The signs of somebody in distress can be very, very different. One can vary from just sitting there in silence to somebody pacing up and down, maybe chain smoking, or somebody being very aggressive, talking to themselves. And it's just to go over and say, hello, how are you?
One of us will walk up to the person and say, are you okay? Or, how are you? Or, my name is Brendan, I'm here. How are you? Are you okay? If you don't mind me saying so. You look worried, you look distressed, you look troubled. Are you? Are you thinking of killing yourself? That's the most important sentence. And we have to be able and confident to approach somebody and to say that.
The majority of the times they do open up and they do talk to you and they do tell you like that, the way they're feeling and why they're feeling like that. And while we'd had a person talking, normally we'd have another person on the mobile phone ready to ring the services, because before we go out our patrols, our phones are all set at 999, so where we can ring the services if we do need a backup.
We came upon a man who was sitting across from the Limerick Boat Club. He was sitting on the parapet of the bridge, and he clearly had indicated that he wanted to jump into the river to die. And his wife was standing beside him, and she didn't know what to do, and we didn't know what to do. And at one stage, towards the end of this incident, he tied a scarf around over his eyes. So then we knew that he was going to do something. So there were 3 of us standing behind him, and we just took him by the arms and brought him back down onto the pavement. Like, our job is done once we can organise for somebody to come. In most cases, it's the emergency services, either the Gardaí or the paramedics.
We met a gentleman, and we passed him out, and one of the lads went back to him, and when we went back we realised he had slit his wrists, had took a massive amount of pills, and he just wanted to end his life, and we just passed him out. We just thought he was a homeless man asleep on a bench, and months and months later he came to me and thanked us for saving his life, and it was actually one of the most surreal feelings.
I was actually there that night when the person came up and said thank you, and I was absolutely floored to think, I couldn't make out why they were saying thank you. It makes what you do worthwhile and gives you the determination to keep going.
It was the Saturday night where we were on until 4 a.m. and we were almost thinking of finishing, and we met somebody in Ortis Quay, and we'd met them earlier and clearly distressed. And after a lot of toing and froing, and he didn't want to talk and he didn't want to engage, he eventually spoke to us and he agreed to go home because it was late, it was raining, and he didn't have any plan, but he returned again. So we decided at that stage, look, we'll have to call in support. So the Gardaí arrived. They were very professional and calm, and he agreed to return to his home with them, and he did that. And I think a week later I was shopping and I saw him with his family. He seemed content.
When we originally set up the group, my main focus was the mental health and looking after the volunteers, because after Trevor, when he took his own life, he never looked for help and never had any help available to him, or he never asked for it. So that was my first statement the night we met to reform the group, was until the volunteers are looked after first. So we have Peter Nevin, who works with talk therapy on board. Peter's fantastic. He's a breath of fresh air, and he comes. We do once a month, possibly sometimes maybe once every 2 months. We sit around and we talk. We talk about patrols, and we talk about what's happening. We don't talk about our personal lives. It's basically what's happened on patrol.
Well, when I first read about the group in the local newspapers, I thought to myself, this sounds like a really, really good idea. And I also knew that I wouldn't be able to give the time commitment to patrolling in the evenings. So I thought, well, but my training and expertise in trauma and counselling and psychotherapy, I thought, well, what I could do is actually come in and offer some kind of support to the team themselves. And in general, working with clients, I often suggest that they get involved in voluntary work in some shape or form, because I think voluntary work is really, really good for our mental health. And that's why I wanted to come on board to support the volunteers.
We were coming back from Clancy Strand, and there was another member of myself and the other 2 member guys were behind us, and noticed this person standing against the fence, and whatever way I looked closely, well, I thought to myself, well, the tide has gone out, so the only way, if somebody does fall in, they're going to get hurt. But look closely, then he was hanging from a tree. So that was an eye-opener. I checked his pulse, found no pulse, but as I was checking his pulse, I had one of the group members ring 999 at the time. So the emergency services were literally there within seconds. Ambulance driver came over and asked us could we help him down. So myself and another colleague helped him down, and after that then the ambulance crew worked on him. He was put into hospital then for 5 days, and that Friday then he was released home to his parents. So he survived, which was good. But that was an eye-opener, because for the 4 nights of that I never slept once for the 4 nights.
A trauma affects how a person sees themselves. It affects their sense of personal integrity. They might feel themselves to be under some kind of threat that is actually hard to name, but it feels like an internal threat. And it's a little bit like, it sounds like a cliche, but the idea of having the rug pulled out from under your feet. Everything that you normally assumed to be true and correct and real is suddenly questioned. Everything about your life is suddenly up for questioning. So it's about trying to re-engage with the certainties of life. and getting back in touch with what helps, what has helped a person in the past, and what can get back in touch with them to help in the present as well.
I went home and turned the lights on. I live by myself, which I don't mind, to be honest. But I turned the lights on and left the lights on all night, and I left the lights on the following night. But it took a while. But I did go and see Peter. I did have a few counselling sessions with Peter. And it just he made me realise that, look, you did a good thing. You got him down. They did their job, and he was released home to his family a few days later. So there was the negative side, thinking, should I have done more? Should I have done this? Should I have done that? But the good side is he was sent home, and after about a week and a half, things started settling. So it was all right then.
We have noticed that the people we meet and who have been and are or were suicidal, it was obvious to us that they were seriously intoxicated or on some other form of drugs.
I do think alcohol does play some part in it. You know, we have met people who have just come out of the pub and they've had an argument with the boyfriend or the girlfriend, and they're fine, I'm going down and I'm jumping off into the river. So that is a small part of it. I do think recession is a huge part. And I do think where we've seen people and we've seen farmers come in from miles out that have lost everything because of the recession. So it is playing a little part of it. Mental health is also playing a huge part.
It isn't just about drinking drugs anymore. It's about the person having no money, feel they have nobody to talk to, feel that they're so isolated. That's why I reckon that it is a sign of times, definitely.
Ideally, we would love not to be out. We would love for the government to get off its ass and provide services for all those people, whether it's drugs related, alcohol related, mental health. They need to get up and they need to start providing services for these people. They need to have somewhere else to go, barring down to the side of the river, and they need to think that there is no other way out, only to throw themselves off a bridge or off the side of the pier. We should not be doing what we're doing. But if we keep going and doing what we're doing at the scale we're doing it now, then it's another 80, 90 families that will not get the knock on the door that we got at 3 o'clock in the morning. So for even one family to be saved from that, it's horrific. It is an absolute horrific knock to get on the door at 3 o'clock in the morning to say that, I mean, Trevor was 32, that, you know, he took his own life because there was no other way out. Then that's wrong. But if we can stop that, then hey, you know, it's good to be part of something so great.
Because I've dealt with suicide before, with losing my father, losing my uncle, I decided that I want to give something back. Now, if I go out and don't come across anyone, I'm 100% happy. I've done my job, I've not gone out. But just to know that if we're on patrols and somebody does feel suicidal, that they can come and talk to us and we can get them the help that they need to.
If I can just be there to be that listening ear to help that person to actually realise, you know, that they can lean on somebody for support. That's what makes me, if I can just stop that one person from going into the river, that's what will make me go back out on my patrols and keep me there.
I saw the devastation that suicide leaves behind, and I saw the devastation it does to families. And if me being out on patrol and I meet one person and stop that one person from, you know, taking their own life or even contemplating it, I suppose Peter always had a saying that tomorrow is always a little bit brighter, or even to live another day, things might be brighter the next day. So if I can just go out and help just one more person to stop taking their own life, then that's why I go out.